Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught! Jelani Woods! Touchdown!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it off. Got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, everybody, welcome aboard. Appreciate you being with us here on this Thursday, September 7th. Jim Coyle with you as always. Dustin Schutte along for the ride today. Looking forward to it. Don't forget Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda. Just go to andymoorehonda.com to get more to your door and the best in new and used vehicles. And the Wow Food Group and the family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington and Bedford areas. Great places like Southern Stone Restaurant, located right at Patterson and Rogers, next door to Feast. Great places like Chop Shop, Ugly Grouper down in Florida. But I was at Chop Shop last night for Inside Indiana Football with Don Fisher and Tom Allen over there. But enjoyed a nice little, I just went easy and had the Reuben last night. Dustin Schutte, my Mr. Food extraordinaire.
Yeah, you sent me your picture of what you make like a Cajun shrimp the other day. It looked pretty good.
Oh, of course it was good. You're lucky I didn't send you the pictures of the tacos I made before that, baby. It's on. I have not gotten anything back from Mr. Schutte, though, as you see. I threw it out there and I got nothing back.
Well, yeah, I have not been cooking much at home recently. I did not feel well, suffered a workout injury. So I've just been kind of taking it easy on the cooking side of things.
Hold on. Did you pull some fat? What happened?
Yeah, I did. I think I pulled a muscle in my leg. So, I was trying to lift grabbing the tens off the dumbbell rack there, trying to bulk up, and I think I pulled something in my leg. So for the rest of the week, I've taken it easy. But it makes me want to I'm a big baby if I get hurt or sick. So I've wanted to do absolutely nothing. So I have not done much. I got the easiest stuff to make. I'm going to make a BLT tonight and probably a grilled cheese tomorrow. So that's my cooking extraordinaire. But next week I'll get something good and send it your way.
I'll be looking forward to it. How's everybody doing? Appreciate you joining us here on this day. Appreciate you. It's actually college football tonight. John mentioned it before we got going. Louisville has a game against Murray State that if you want to get yourself some football in, there you go. You can watch that one as the schedule unfolds. Indiana playing tomorrow night on a Friday night, which stinks, but is what it is. So you can have another full weekend of football. This is like back-to-back double doses of football, man. Last week you had 5 straight days, and this week you'll have 4. Are there college football games this Sunday?
I don't think so, but the NFL Week 1 starts. So
never mind then. I didn't. Okay, then there are none. There absolutely will not be any on Sunday then. So I did not realize this was week 1.
Yeah, so you get games in the NFL Thursday, Sunday, Monday. So technically, you're right. You just don't get college football for 4 straight days. You get football period for 5 straight days. I think it's the Chiefs and the Lions that play tonight. I think that kicks things off.
Yep, absolutely. Also, former Iowa State starting quarterback, and I say former, Hunter Deckers and 4 other athletes from either ISU or Iowa have pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of underage gambling, according to ESPN. Deckers, ISU offensive lineman Jake Remsburg, former ISU player Dodd Saucer, former Iowa kicker Aaron Blom, and former Iowa baseball player Gary Christensen all reportedly pleaded guilty after a state investigation into sports betting that has turned up more than 10 current and former student athletes accused of making improper wagers. The group initially faced an aggravated misdemeanor charge of tampering with records that carried a maximum penalty of 2 years in prison. By pleading guilty to underage gambling, they face a fine of $645, and that's it. So that's good. And hopefully that sends a message, man. You got to be dumb to bet on your own freaking school. You just can't do it. You can't bet on your sport. Don't do it. Gee whiz.
I'm glad that you have that stance because I have the exact same stance. And people seem to think that this is not as big of a deal. But the problem is even if you aren't betting on your own school, the way kids can get information through texting, I mean, friends are all over the place. It absolutely could impact the integrity of the game.
You can't even bet on your own sport, period.
Right.
You shouldn't. For that reason there, what you're talking about, because of all the transfers. You could have your best friend transfer to another school and just be feeding you info.
Right. And the Iowa instance, I believe, and I hope I'm not getting this wrong, but I believe it was one of the players, Noah Shannon, who got suspended for the entire year, allegedly bet on an Iowa women's basketball game. Well, on the surface, I don't think there was any ill will there. So let me get that and make that clear. At the same time, how hard is it for him to send a text message to one of the players on the team and say, hey, is Caitlin Clark 100%? I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'm just saying that in those instances, if she's 100%, yeah, maybe I'm going to bet on Iowa to cover that 20-point spread. If she's not, and she's not playing, and I know that and nobody else does before tip-off, am I going to, bet on the other team to cover? That's the kind of scenario, and that's kind of the slippery slope that I think we get into. So I don't think that was – I want to make it clear that I don't think that was the case. I think it was just, hey, I'm going to bet on my team to win this game. But theoretically, you could gather that information, and it could hurt the integrity of the game. And I remember, by the way, there are people I know now that work in athletic departments, and when I was a student athlete at a Division III school, we couldn't even fill out NCAA tournament brackets for fun. And I still know people now who don't fill out NCAA tournament brackets for fun because they don't want to hurt their school. So does it suck? Sure. But
what's the coach's name? Former football coach at Washington? Now an analyst?
Got
in trouble for that. Got in trouble for that very thing. Rick Neuheisel.
Yeah, Rick Neuheisel. Yes.
Was he at Colorado?
That's a good question. He might have been. Let me check.
Did he not get in trouble for for doing an NCAA bracket several years ago?
I'm looking at it right now. Let's see. He was at Colorado. Yes, he was at Colorado. Then he went to Washington. Let's see
he was at Washington when he got in trouble for the NCAA tournament bracket thing, which I found to be a joke at that time. That's been several years ago.
Yeah, this was in the 98, 99? Oh, no. Early 2000s. In the fall, violated NCAA rules against gambling but didn't sanction him.
You filled out. This was over an NCAA tournament basketball thing.
Yes, it was. He taking part in a neighborhood pool for the 2003 NCAA Division I men's basketball tournament. So you were spot on.
What a joke.
Spot on.
What a joke. And what a joke that was. That shows how much of a joke the NCAA has always been, but we don't need to go down that road. We already know. But with the legal fallout, might be limited to a three-figure fine. The bigger issue for the active student athletes will likely be how the NCAA treats their eligibility. Iowa defensive tackle, and Indiana does not play Iowa this year. So Iowa defensive tackle Noah Shannon has already been suspended for the entire season.
Right.
Gone. Although the Hawkeyes are appealing that decision. NCAA rules allow for bets on a student athlete's own team to be punished by a permanent loss of eligibility And Deckers falls into that group, the former Iowa State quarterback, as the redshirt junior was reportedly alleged to have bet on the Iowa State-Oklahoma State game in 2021. He's got 2 years of eligibility and gone, baby.
Over a couple bucks.
Yeah. In total, Deckers was alleged to have engaged in a scheme. Oh, let's see. Here's what makes it worse. Deckers was alleged to have engaged in a scheme with his parents. His parents.
Oof.
To make 366 sports wagers on his DraftKings account worth over, it's $2,800. That's not a lot. With
so not worth it.
But 26 of them involved, only 26 of them involved Iowa State athletics. All those bets, and you had to put that little bit in there. Why? That cost you everything. That was so dumb.
Yep.
And now with Deckers sidelined, Iowa State opened its season with redshirt freshman Rocco Beck starting under center, but they did win big, so maybe it's a good thing for him. But he's cost himself a college career. But his parents, what the hell? If I'd have asked my dad or mom to help me make some bets, I would have probably got cracked across the head with a 2-before.
That was very Indiana. First of all, that was very Indiana. A 2-before. Would have got cracked with a 2-before.
Well, that's what they were back in the day.
Yeah, I just don't understand. Again, I think it's just kids having access to these platforms, to these sites and these apps, and just wanting to make a wager. I feel like that's all this is.
That one goes well beyond.
No, I agree with you, but it's just so why would you even risk it? You're not making that much money. $3,000 to potentially throw your college career away, potentially go into the NFL. It just doesn't make sense. There's got to be better education. And by the way, the NCAA already has a 3-hour segment on why you shouldn't gamble when they do the compliance meetings.
I've probably had 3 different betting apps over the last 4 years or whatever, whether it's DraftKings or whomever, and yada, yada. I don't think I've ever made 366 bets total.
Right.
I'm not kidding. I'm like, gee whiz. I'm like, dude, what's he going nuts?
Yeah.
But I will say this. Colorado was a 3-point favorite over Nebraska at home. Somebody please explain that to me. How can they only be a 3-point favorite at home against Nebraska?
I would take Nebraska on that.
Okay,
Stun silence. No, here's
am I the only person that watched the TCU Colorado game last week?
No, you're not. I went back and watched the replay. I didn't watch it live except the last 3 or 4 minutes of that game,
which was even more
I went back and watched
electrifying for me offensively for what they have.
Well, that part's true. Okay, so I don't know that I would take this. I think it's going to be more of a toss-up game than people realize. Here's the thing: Colorado fits in well with the Pac-12 because they're not a very physical team. They have got speed and they have got electric playmakers. There's no question about that. So but the part that I think favors Nebraska is if you watch that Minnesota game, that is a very physical defense. And when they run the football, they've got a very physical offense. So if Nebraska throws the ball less than 12 times in that game and forces Colorado can't tackle. So if they keep the defense on the field, if they move the ball on the ground and milk the clock and keep the offense sidelined, they're going to have a great chance to win that game. I don't know. I thought going into this season, that would probably be a blowout in Nebraska's favor. But I think it's more of a toss-up game. But I think that spread is probably dead on. -3 either way, I could see that going.
Okay. We've got we'll talk about this more because it's boggling my mind. But we've got lots coming up. Appreciate everybody jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline early and often. Fred, Kent, Mike, Philip, Dennis, Justin, Kevin, Larry, Kevin from the Rollville, everybody else from all over. I'm gonna make sure I don't miss anybody. John, Robert. We've got lots more coming up. Back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
All right, we were supposed to have Matt, but he just emailed me saying he just had a meeting pop up, and I may just ask him if he wants to start switching days. He said Thursdays are pretty crazy for him right now, so no Matt Taylor today, but you will have Mike DeCourcy at 9:10 until
there we go
9:50.
So here's what this reminds me of. Did you watch the Utah-Florida game last year, the season opener?
Yes. Florida, Utah?
No, last year. Florida beat Utah in the week 1 last year, and Florida was trash, and Utah turned out to be obviously pretty good. That's what Colorado TCU reminds me of. I don't think TCU is going to be any good, but that's why I'm not jumping all over the.
I'm not saying that it's not going to be a close game, but here's my thought. At 3 points, what do you got to lose? I don't see any possible way in the world Nebraska is going to beat Colorado.
Oh, I do.
Colorado.
It doesn't. John, can you pull this up? It doesn't matter. That's going to be a home game for Nebraska. Look up the stadium in 2019.
It's not. You have any idea how many season tickets that Colorado sold?
What
the
stadium
minute
am I looking up at?
Dion
Which one
took the job?
Folsom Field. I'm telling you right now. I will bet money that you'll see way more red in that stadium than you will black and gold.
2019.
This can be our side wager.
I get that, but you cannot look back at Colorado beyond this year. They were 1-11 last year. Nobody went. They sucked. They stunk. Bam.
Is there a
Dion
specific photo I'm looking for, Dustin? Because I'm not sure which one I'm looking for here.
Well, if you can't find it, it's fine. I'm just telling you.
When they
you.
played Nebraska? You're saying when they played Nebraska?
Yeah, right.
Here's something. This may not be exactly what you're looking for, but
I'm drinking the Colorado Kool-Aid with Justin.
This far right one. You can kind of see a lot of red over here in the corner. That's what you're talking about, but
that ain't Jack.
Okay.
They sold 20,000 extra season tickets the minute he became a coach. And now they sold 20 TCU.
Yeah, but those tickets were sold out way beforehand.
That's also true.
I'm just telling you. It's going to be way more red. I promise.
Here we go.
Well, it was way more red. Time or call 812-824-4040. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, how's it going? Welcome back on this Thursday. Jim Coyle with you as always from the high atop the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studio.
I mean, he must be way high atop the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right now. Because we have completely...
You know what, John? I thought that was me.
You know, I think Dustin thinks that he may have completely lost it right there.
I did, because look at this, but look at that frozen frame we have for the people on YouTube. Oh, there we go.
Now there he is. He's made it back.
It never happens, and it drives me insane when that happens.
It happened right as you were saying we were high atop the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. We just thought you went a little too high. We
might have fell off. Hope I didn't fall off. But picking up our conversation, we're talking about Colorado and Nebraska this week. I'm just shocked that after that performance, while there was not a lot of defense, I'll give you that, they gave up points. Their ability to score at will, I don't know if I'm overreacting. I went back and watched it, and maybe that's true. But the talent that they have, Shedeur Sanders, he's the real deal. That dude was flinging that ball around, getting out, finding receivers. He was getting decent protection. They have so many playmakers. Man, they may not be as physical as Nebraska. I get that, but I think here's my going back to what I was saying. It's a 3-point spread. I just don't see Colorado losing that game. And the worst case is at 3 points, it's a push.
Well,
That's
right. I think we see this game different. I do think that you're right. I think obviously now Colorado has playmakers. I think they proved that they are more up to the challenge than I probably thought they were coming into the season. So I think I underestimated what they were able to do. But there's a lot of different factors. One of it is you don't know. TCU lost 12 or 13 starters from that championship team last season. So that's part of it. Colorado again,
22.
Okay, that's a fair point. That is a fair point. That's a fair point. I just don't think if you get into a physical game, and this is why I think in the Pac-12 they'll actually be better than I thought, because they do have the speed and they do have the skill to where they can be competitive in that league. But what's going to happen when they play a physical team? I just don't think they have the type of depth it would take to beat a team like Nebraska. Again, I could be wrong. But if Nebraska turns the ball over 4 times and they allow Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter and those guys to have the ball a lot offensively, then I think they could be in trouble. So I agree with you. But the funny thing about what you talk about with that spread is heading into that week, that was a 9.5-point favorite for Nebraska. So that's 12 points.
Well, no one expected Colorado to be Colorado. Nobody expected 80 new kids to come in and be able to brought together, go on the road against a team that, even though they've lost some people, played in the national championship game last year and beat them on their own field.
Yeah, I mean, those are fair points.
That alone takes moxie. That gives them the ability to know to be in a tough game, a game where that's on the line and they still have to perform. I just thought that they were put in a lot of different positions that they were able to learn from in the first week and succeeded in that. And then you look at a team like Nebraska who, I know they've got a lot of close losses, but they don't have a ton of offense. So I don't see them scoring a ton of points. And I think that Colorado, I'm not saying they're going to score 45 points this week. I'm not expecting that. But they have such quick strike ability.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it can happen at any time, and it will happen, I think. There's just too many playmakers on that team.
I think that's a good point. But what I think the key for Nebraska, and again, I go back to this being a toss-up, but I think the advantage for Nebraska, if they are going to win this game, it's going to be because they run the football pretty consistently and they keep the offense on the sideline. I don't think Colorado's going to be able to stop Nebraska. So if you can shorten the game and don't turn the ball over and keep that offense on the sideline, I think they've got a great chance to win. And again, I go back, I said this in the break. The reason I'm still not jumping quite onto the Colorado hype train is because last year Utah who was a far superior team, went down to Gainesville in week 1 and got beat by the Gators. And all of a sudden, everybody was talking about Florida being a potential SEC contender. They jumped into the top 25. People thought they were a really good football team. They turned out to be a trash team. And I'm not saying that's going to be
you.
I'm definitely okay.
I don't know that he is. I'm kidding. I don't know that he is.
No, we probably are.
He could be talking to me. I have no idea. He just says you're definitely wrong. He didn't say who he's talking about.
I would bet money he is talking to me, which is fine. I just see this game a lot differently. And again, it doesn't matter where the game's at. I think that's going to be a Nebraska home game. And I've said that before. I think maybe there probably will be more black and gold than there was a couple years ago when that game was played in Boulder. But I mean, that's a fan base that overtook Notre Dame Stadium, and Notre Dame's got a pretty good following and a pretty proud program. So I don't know. I think this is going to be a really interesting game, more so than I thought to start the season. It might be.
What
do we got?
Hell yeah.
Illinois, Kansas. We've got Purdue, Virginia Tech. And those are some interesting games.
That's going to be a very interesting game because Valtech way down, but Purdue did not come through. So now they have to go on the road. They're not playing a really good team in Valtech, but they're on the road, and that is being on the road is just difficult. It doesn't matter. And man, they'd love to a shot at beating a Big Ten Power 5 team. That would be great for them. So Purdue with the little Purdue needs this win. You know, Purdue is just like, I think Purdue is in the same situation as Indiana as far as the importance of these games. They've already lost a game that they, I'm sure, did not expect to lose, and that losing that non-con game that hurts. Just like Indiana must beat Louisville. If Indiana loses to Louisville, I've said it over and over. I think that things get very, very uphill from there.
I actually want to throw something about that. You've said that a few days in a row, and I went and looked at the schedule, and I just wanted to throw out what I think could happen if Indiana is to get to the postseason without beating Louisville, and you still win Indiana State and Akron. Then you could beat Rutgers, Michigan State, Purdue, and then either Illinois or Maryland and still get to 6. I think you can still do that.
Can you? Yes, they can. But Illinois is on the road, so that's going to be a tough row to hoe, number one. Number two, it's further into the season, so Illinois is going to be better. Here's my deal with Indiana. And it's not like I've hidden this, but this quarterback thing, it's been ridiculous. The quarterback situation is as ridiculous to me as the play calling was last week. Here's what Indiana has done to themselves. I've said for 6 weeks on this show that Brendan Sorsby was going to be the starting quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a fact. Well, he was quasi. We would find out later that was just he starts, Taven plays this week. Taven starts, he plays. But here's what they've done. They've taken 2 games away from a quarterback that they need to be fully prepared. He's going to have half the snaps, half the reps, half the preparation in week 3 that he should have had. He should have been playing every snap in game 1, every snap in game 2, every snap in game 3. They should have been able to make a damn decision before game 1. The fact that they're in year 7 and they can't make a decision on a starting quarterback again is a serious, serious problem that you put your team in. You've wasted 2 games not having a starting quarterback who is getting all the reps and getting prepared, and you've cut it in half. He'll go into the Louisville game, whoever the starter is, with maybe one game under his belt, because it's been split in half. He didn't get all the situations. Maybe he didn't get the situations he could have used in the next game. I just think that it's utterly ridiculous. Make a decision. I think the lack of leadership and effective decision-making on the offensive side of the ball has just been an issue at Indiana for 6 out of 7 years. The only year it wasn't was when Kalen DeBoer was here. Other than that, it's been not good. And it's not changing. It's not changing.
That's an empowering speech or passionate speech. I think you are right in terms of so I don't quite see it as badly as you do, but I probably should make a decision. I do think Taven Jackson, I think that combination gives them something. Maybe Taven's a little bit more athletic. Maybe Brennan's a little bit better in the pocket. I don't know what the case is. But
I don't care, though. You make a decision. You get paid to be a damn head coach. You get paid to be an offensive coordinator, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, and you can't make a freaking decision? You're costing
Here's
the
what I want to
team.
go back. Here's what I want to go back to. You mentioned the play calling. I liked the play calling in that game. On the offense, and it's easy to look at this final score and say they only scored 3 points. What are they doing? But I don't know what else they could. Like they brought out the option. They went for it on a 4th down call. They're not going to try to beat Ohio State.
On a 4th down call that they shouldn't have done.
No, I completely disagree. Why?
Because it was 4th and 7. It's 4th and 7. You've got 38 seconds left in the half. Oh, I'm talking about the 4th and 7 that they went for at the end of the half, that they absolutely, without question, should never have gone for, because you have an offense who hadn't done jack squat all night long, and now you're going to go for it on 4th and 7 right before the half ends and give Ohio State an opportunity to score, which they did.
Well, okay, you're Indiana. What's the difference between going down 7-3 and 10-3 to Ohio State? Don't you have to take, at some point in that game, to me, I understand why people are upset about it, but to me, you got to take at least some level of risk in that game. And it's not going to be you beating Ohio State with 50-yard passes. Back in the Kevin Wilson era, yeah, that's how you would have beat Ohio State, because they had the receivers, they had the quarterback, they had the offensive line to do that. They don't have any of that this year. So when you get into that, well, was it 4th and 7? I thought it was 4th and 4. Like, I thought it was very manageable.
I think that there were 2 occasions they went for it on 4th down.
Okay, there might have been. I don't remember the second one. I was talking about the one before half.
Yeah, I'm talking about the run right before halftime. I'm fairly certain it was 4th and 7, but I'll have to go back and look.
You might be right. I might be misremembering, but I liked that play call because it was to me, the way the defense had played to that point, to only give up 7 points, I think you feel pretty comfortable. Like, hey, if we give up a field goal to Ohio State here, we're still only down a touchdown. I like the risk, because if they convert that, you either get a field goal and it's a 1-point game, or maybe you're able to get Ohio State sleeping at some point and you get a touchdown and then you take the lead into the half. I like that play call. This is the type of Walt Bell we saw at Maryland, Maryland never had a great offensive line. Indiana does have some playmakers. His goal was to add new wrinkles basically every week into their offense, and I think that's what you're going to see. Doesn't mean they're going to score 30 points. Doesn't mean they're going to score 30 points every game, but I think in games that John mentioned, against teams like Illinois, Purdue, who else is on that schedule? Indiana State. Did they play Akron? I don't have the schedule right in front of me.
Yeah, and Michigan State is who also mentioned. Yep.
So I think in some of those games they will be able to put up some points. I don't think it's going to be like Kalen DeBoer or Kevin Wilson style points, but 28-35.
Well, we'll find out tomorrow night. If they can't put up points against Indiana State, then they're in serious trouble.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
I mean, serious trouble. We've got to take a break. We've got lots more coming up. The man, Mike DeCourcy, will join us. We'll continue the raging debates and discussions. Looking forward to it. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
God,
Speaking
I love
of Indiana
football
State, I saw they're going to be without their starting quarterback tomorrow.
Oh, my God.
Oh, if Indiana doesn't win that game by 50. Hold on. By the way, I know this.
My
Well,
God.
no,
They don't even have their starting quarterback?
I can't do this. Never mind.
What was you going to do?
I was going to show you the cans of beer I have, but they are not sponsorship friendly, so I'm not going to do that.
Care. You can
Look at me learning.
What are they?
They're the Indiana State beers.
Who put them out?
Upland and Terre Haute Brewing Company.
Well, you can show the Terre Haute one.
You want me to show the Terre Haute?
Yeah.
I've got them for all three schools. Well, all three. I've got Indiana State, Purdue, and Indiana in the fridge. I just gotta say, this is
tell us which one's the best.
I think the Indiana State one is, to be honest. Where's the camera? Here we go. Look at that.
I think it's pretty cool looking too.
It is.
That's
Look at
a
that.
good looking
I do want to say though, I like the older Indiana State logo as opposed to the newer one.
I agree.
Is that the newer one?
Yeah,
That's
this
the
one.
newer logo. Yeah.
Yeah. The other one was just like the actual state with sycamores, and didn't it have a leaf in there?
I think so. Good morning,
This is an
Mr.
American
DeCourcy.
original.
It's American
You're,
original.
you have yourself muted, Mike.
Oh.
Good
There we
morning,
go.
gentlemen.
How are you, sir?
I am doing well. How are you?
Oh, we're great. We've been having a raging debate about Indiana football.
I just put up cold beer, so it's the end of that.
What's
He
going
wasn't
on?
drinking on the show, I promise.
No, I'm not. I just showed the can because I got Indiana State and Purdue themed beer cans in my fridge.
What's new with you, sir? How are you?
I'm doing well. All good here.
All right. We've got about 30 seconds. I'll pull us back in.
To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering, serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas. Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of Wow Food Group. This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, September 7th. Appreciate you being with us. Dustin Schutte sitting in and joined now by the great Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News and Big Ten Network. How are you, sir?
I am well, Jim. How are you?
Great to have you along as always. We've been having fun already talking football, which I know is not necessarily always your favorite subject, but you're a big fan. And how could you not be a big fan of the Colorado TCU game, the Dion story, and where that might go? But we were having a big debate about Colorado and Nebraska coming up because I was just shocked that Colorado is only a 3-point favorite over Nebraska. And Dustin has the other side of that, probably the smarter side. I always take the emotional side. And then now we have the man of reason, Mike DeCourcy, right in the middle.
Well, I how can you not be a fan? Well, I'm not wild about him running off the vast majority of his roster last year.
But
I'm
didn't
not.
he prove himself right by winning?
Well, he won a game. I mean, guys win games,
and they were 1-11.
Coaches win no games.
But they were 1-11 last year with that roster.
All right, I don't. Maybe he goes 1-11 now. I've seen it happen. I'm not saying I'm not saying he hasn't. He achieved at a high level at Jackson State, and he's off to a great start at Colorado. But I don't think that was what college athletics should be, and I don't think that. I don't think that everything being about Deion is the best thing for Colorado either. I mean, it's always about Deion. Yeah, wherever he goes.
No doubt about that.
And like, he's not the only coach who does that, but I mean, he's the one that's in the spotlight right now. And I don't have to be a fan of that.
No. I'm talking about, and I'm not talking about Deion so much as just the Colorado thing. The fact that they were 1-11 last year, that the excitement he's brought over, they sell an additional 20,000 season tickets the minute he became coach. Colorado has had some success in the past, obviously, but it's been a while. Big lull, and now they're joining the Big 12 next year. A lot of excitement. The Pac-12 actually having a good year so far right now too, which is strangely ironic, as is the ACC. But it's just wild. Now this week, they're only a 3-point favorite against a team that is probably going to be decent, but starting off not good. And I'm really surprised to see them only a 3-point favorite at home.
Yeah, that's the surprising part, is that it's at home. But what it tells you is that Vegas is they do things based on the reality and not on the hype. That's really what it comes down to. Now, hype eventually might move it a little bit, but when they put up a line, they're looking to see what the smart money says. And obviously the smart money didn't start pouring in on Colorado simply because they had the great opener. So I think it's pretty obvious that they have some idea that it was a nice start, but that doesn't necessarily portend a spectacular season for the Buffaloes. I have not looked at their schedule to see how challenging it gets from here. I would be less surprised by the 3-point line if it were a home game for the Huskers, because that'd be a lot to go into 80,000 seat stadium in Lincoln and do what they just got done in a much less demanding environment. But playing at home, you would think that coming off that win, that there would be people betting big on Colorado, but it's not happening.
Well, to that point, the line did shift before the game started. It was Nebraska 9.5. So that line shifted by 12 points, basically, in a matter of about 12 to 24 hours.
9.5 Nebraska they put up? Wow.
Nebraska was before the final results from Saturday.
Gotcha.
Nebraska was a 9.5 point favorite. So that line did shift 12 points. I
wonder what it shifted since. What did it shift though since like the Sunday morning or whatever? That would be more, because the line obviously was out too early.
I think it's
right. I didn't know enough about either team.
I think it started as Colorado minus 1.5, and then jumped to the 3.5, where depending on where you go to is where it is right now, I think.
Yeah, so that's instructive that that not that much money has poured in on Colorado since the post game line came out. I'll be curious to see how it plays out, though. Certainly, and I think that's part of what college football has to get to, where it goes beyond the bettors and the people who care about those particular teams. College football's problem it has been that it's too It's too isolated. And this is a problem for college basketball as well. It needs to be a broader audience based on a compelling story and championship pursuits. And what we've seen over the last decade or so of college football is that everybody starts out the year knowing, okay, Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma, Clemson, maybe. We don't have to pay attention to anybody else. And I think that has suppressed college football's audience generally. Not that it's not still getting great numbers, but I think it could do even better, or will do even better when the path to the college football playoff becomes more profound. Obviously, losing the Pac-12 makes it slightly less profound. They're probably going to take one of the automatic qualifier bids off the table down to 5. It would have been better if it were half and half. And why it's not is, the Pac-12's just horrendous mismanagement has definitely impacted the future of college football.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say to that point, like what is Oregon? I can't even get my thought out. What can Oregon State and Washington State? What is their next move going to be? Because I even saw a storyline where I think the NCAA allows the conference to have 2 years to rebuild itself, basically a 2-year to reach the minimum in terms of having the minimum number of teams in the league. But I just don't understand what Oregon State, Washington is it going to be? They're going to strike a deal with somebody else? Are they going to move to the Mountain West? Are they going to join one of these other Power 5 leagues? Like, what do you think could potentially happen? Because I don't know enough. I honestly don't know enough about how this whole thing works to even give a projection.
Well, I think you start with the idea that you asked about joining another Power 5 league. That's not going to happen. I mean, the value just isn't there for the other leagues. So that's where, and then it goes to, okay, what does the Pac-12 charter say about the money that's in the league right now? And there's money in the league that's like in their bank. They spent a lot of it on rent in San Francisco that they didn't need to spend, but there is money in the league through the NCAA tournament and other aspects. And so could Oregon State and Washington State retain that money by basically reforming the Mountain West under the Pac-12's charter, so to speak? Like, take everybody, because there's money in the Mountain West, but it ain't much. And basically take everybody that's in the Mountain West, put them in the Pac-12, call it the Pac-12, keep the money that's in the league. And I can't say whether that's plausible or not. I don't, or legal. I don't, because I don't know what the Pac-12 charter says or what their articles of incorporation or any of that. I don't know what it says. But typically that's what's happened. Like when the Big East split in half and part of it became the American and part of it became what is now the new Big East. Okay. Mm-hmm. Basically the money and the organization all went to the American. They kept the conference office. They kept the money that was in the league and all of that. And the new Big East agreed to that on the basis of they would get to keep their contract with Madison Square Garden for the conference tournament and the name. That's what they sold their interest in the money that was in the Big East, the old Big East. They sold their interest in that for those two items. So that everybody that's left the Pac-12 now doesn't have necessarily a claim to that money. The teams that are still in there do. But if it gets dissolved, then everybody has a right to it. So that's where, I mean, at least typically that's the way other leagues have worked. So it comes down to, can the Pac-12 basically just say, okay, Mountain West, you come with us, we'll keep the name, and it's a better, I mean, the Mountain West is a pretty cool name, but the Pac-12 is a more enduring brand. Right. And then they might even be able to make a case. They can at least try to take a stand, if they do that, to keep that sixth bid to the playoff. They can make a case. I mean, it's not, it's not like Washington State and Oregon State and Boise and San Diego State have never had representative competitive teams. I don't know if they'd win that argument, but they can at least try to make a case. So I think That's the first step, is finding out whether that's plausible. And if it's not, then obviously the best option would be to join the Mountain West. And as the Mountain West, as true members of the Mountain West, and then everybody gets a chunk of what's left as they divide up the carcass of the Pac-12. So those are what's out there as possibilities. But I gotta think that for their own sake, that the best case scenario for Oregon State and Washington State is to try to do option A, which is to keep the Pac-12 intact, as a different, basically as a rebranded Mountain West.
Well, and I guess that's what I guess that's what I was gonna kind of get to was, is that the easier route, or is this is also convoluted and so difficult, but to me, I agree with you in the sense that I think building up the Pac-12 would be easier because it's a better brand recognition than the Mountain West. So if I'm George Kliavkoff, I'm on the phone with Oregon State, Washington State constantly. Like, I don't know about begging, but we're working together.
Still has a job.
Yeah, he's still in charge of the Pac-12. I mean, nobody fired him, and he still has a league to administer this year. And
Wow.
and look, George didn't. This ain't George. George did not mess this up. This was not his fault. I'm happy that the people who broke the story about the Pac-12 offer did that, because it shows that he's not at fault here. I mean,
Right.
he almost got them a deal that was workable under new parameters, because because there was nowhere else to turn in the market. They were only a few dollars short of where they would have been with ESPN if they'd gone with Apple. But of course, they wouldn't have been on linear TV. And I don't think that many people in the Pac-12 were excited about that. Even though streaming might look like the future now, it's not the present for a lot of kids that you want to get to come play football for you. And their families maybe even more so. And so that would have been a big leap. Like for MLS, it was a leap to take themselves off, or to reduce their presence, I should say, because they're still on Fox once a week or so. But they did reduce their presence on linear TV by going with Apple. But they're looking at it as a bet on the future, and they look at their audience as oriented toward the future, younger, etc. So they felt like it was worthwhile. But in college football, college basketball, it's a little bit risky to take yourself out, and make yourself more restrictive in terms of who can see you. So I think they were a little bit averse to that. But it wasn't George that turned down the $30 million contract a year ago. That was the league presidents. So it's not his fault. And if they, he and his legal experts, et cetera, know what's plausible and legal under the Pac-12 charter and articles of incorporation, whatever else they have. They know what's plausible. And if what I suggested, staying as the Pac-12, keeping the money that's in the league, and just bringing on members, and basically you'd take the entire Mountain West. That's how you'd get it to happen. You'd have to say to the Mountain West, are you cool with joining? And that would basically be that, because you can't exclude. There's no way you're getting that done if you have to exclude any of the current Mountain West members. It would have to be the whole group, usurping the whole group. And then that also would bring some money along as well. It just would put at risk some of the people now who work for the Mountain West. They'd have to figure that out. And I'm sure they don't want to put a bunch of people out of business as well. So there's some hurdles there, but I'm sure they're working on it, because it's the thing that makes the most sense economically for the two remaining Pac-12 members and for the league as a whole.
Not only that, it would help them with college football playoff time comes around as well, just because of being in a much, even though it is not the Pac-12 that we know, it is a bigger, better brand, like you've said. And does the Pac-12 retain their position in the college football playoff right now? How does that work?
Well, what they met last week, the commissioners who are on the board or whatever it is of the college football playoff met last week, and there was a lot of conversation that they would address that either by keeping the current 6 auto bids and 6 AQs, 6 at-larges, or going all at-large. That was the suggestion, or dropping it by 1 because we're about to lose a power conference. And they punted that. And that's good news for the Pac-12. It's not bad news. It maybe not great news, but it's for the bones of the Pac-12. It does offer the possibility that if they were to do the deal that I talked about, that they could then go to the College Football Committee and say, hey, give us a couple of years as an AQ program and see what we can make of it. And then if we haven't performed, then boot us and put us in the at-large pool with everybody else, or in the final AQ spot, the one that's, the one that's fungible, and go from there. But I think that I'm disappointed in the dissolution of the Pac-12 for a lot of reasons. Well, it's not dissolved yet, but in the decline of the Pac-12 for a lot of reasons. But the biggest one is that I thought that the 6-6 model was going to be really good for the college football playoff. Even with SC and UCLA in the Big Ten, I thought that there was enough football strength left in what remained of the league, with Washington and Oregon, et cetera, and San Diego State eventually joining. I thought there was enough football strength left in the league to make it worthwhile. And so maybe they can argue for that, and we'll see what happens with it. But at least that door's still open because they didn't make a final decision at their meeting last week.
Mike DeCourcy's with us. We've got lots more coming up on Indiana Sports Beat Radio in our second hour. We'll be back with that and much more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
I don't know if I can handle Colorado winning much more, to be quite honest with you all.
I don't care if they win. I don't care if they win anymore, as long as they win this week. That's all I care about.
The only thing Deion did that bothered me was in the press conference whenever he was trying to get the reporter, who's supposed to be unbiased, to say that he believes in Colorado.
Right,
now.
right.
Yeah, that was aggravating.
It's all about
But coaches are like that, period. I mean,
yeah, they don't understand that side.
I mean, go back to Mike Gundy.
At least they should, but maybe they don't.
Mike Gundy. How about Mike Gundy? Come at me. I'm a man.
But he's saying come at me. He's saying criticize me. He's not saying I don't deserve to ever be criticized ever in my whole entire life.
No, right. I just enjoyed it. It was just some of the great clips. All those things.
He's not 40 anymore, by the way.
He's not.
I'll tell you who we got to keep an eye on too, if they end up being okay, is Biff Poggi, the head coach at Charlotte. That guy is an interesting character as well. I don't know if you've seen or heard anything he's said before.
No, but my brother was the head security for Charlotte for 4 or 5 years.
I'm pretty sure he coaches from the sideline in like a wife beater or something.
Oh, get out of here!
In a
Let me see if I can find a photo.
It's a cutoff. No, it's a cutoff. It's a cutoff. Like
okay.
He cuts the sleeves off the t-shirt.
Kind
of like Bill Belichick with the hoodies.
I was going to say, a la Bill Belichick. He's got a name like Biff. Yeah. And let me tell you, Charlotte has played, by the time they get done, they will have played virtually every Power 5 team, I think, in the country. They have been, for the last 5 years, they have just been getting paycheck game after paycheck game. They played Tennessee, Kentucky. They're on Indiana's schedule next year. I know they played Louisville. Who they play this week? It's funny.
I think they play Maryland this week.
Maryland, that's it. Maryland, another big. Yeah, they get those money games, baby. Lots of recruiting going on, Mikey. I know that's not your beat But with these football games, Indiana has a trio from Montverde Academy in this weekend. Liam McNeely and Derek Queen, Givens.
All right, here we go, guys. One of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Ravesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It's Thursday, September 7th. Hey, there's a game tonight, don't forget. Louisville and Murray State. If you're jonesing for college football, Mike DeCourcy is with us from the Sporting News, as is our good friend Dustin Schutte. Mike, earlier we talked about yesterday, it was announced that, I think it was yesterday this came out, but the former Iowa starting quarterback, Iowa State rather, Hunter Deckers, four other athletes from either ISU or Iowa pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of underage gambling. But for Deckers, he bet on his own team and he's done. He lost 2 years of eligibility, and I don't know what's worse. I do know what's worse. The fact that his parents helped him achieve this. He did this with the help of his parents. And I'm thinking, and I told Dustin earlier, I said, if I'd have tried to go to my dad with that, he'd have cracked a 2x4 over my head. I said, and so I'm like, well, how in the hell does any parent who has a kid playing major college sports do that? And this was only for a total of $2,800 over like 360 something bets. So this is not big money. It's just big stupidity.
Yeah, I've been an advocate of legalized gambling in the United States for years, even though this is true. I have placed in the last 20 years, I think, 4 legal bets totaling less than $100.
Yeah.
Like I was in like when I'd be in Vegas for July recruiting, I would always try to get to one of the books and put $20 down on the Steelers, like a future bet to win the Super Bowl. And I missed it in 2008 because that was the year of the Redeem team. So I was working the recruiting and that, and I was going like 20 hours a day, and I didn't get there. And then they won the Super Bowl. So I missed out on that one. But I'm a believer in it because, first of all, it is the best weapon against things like this, against what happened with Alabama baseball, against what happened in the 90s at Arizona State hoops. It was all discovered by legal books. That's how you find out about this stuff, because they know they like no one has a bigger stake in clean competition than the leagues of NFL, NBA, et cetera, et cetera. No one has a bigger stake. But the second biggest stake in clean competition are the legal books. Whether it's in a casino or whether it's in your phone, they have a huge stake in that. So they are on the alert for anything that looks out of line, that looks hinky, as they say. So when they see something that's weird, they report it, and that's how we find out that there are things that whether it's activity that is untoward relative to the integrity of the game. Let's put it that way. Anything that fits that description. So I'm a big advocate of that. If you can legally consume alcohol, then which obviously has, some negative effects and some negative impacts. I just never felt like there was a real reason for there to be a prohibition against gambling. In my trips to Europe, I went to a soccer game in 2006 in London, and at Fulham's Craven Cottage where they play. And I walked right past it was like a wooden booth. It looked like where they sell tickets at a high school football game, or did in the 70s anyway, because that's how old it looked. And you could place a bet on the Fulham game that you were about to go watch. That was in 2006, the same year we were in Scotland. And on the way to the restaurant, you're passing legal books where you can place bets on Scottish Premier League or England's Premier League or whatever else. And I felt that we were always behind the times on that. And I think what we're seeing now, and people are like, oh, this just shows how bad. No, this shows how good it was because they found out about this. This might have happened anyway, because there have been, when I was a kid, and I'm sure well beyond that, there have been illegal books taking bets. So we don't know what might have happened in any game that where the betting was done illegally, but we have been able to find out rather quickly that there are some NFL players that have done things they shouldn't have, and some college athletes who have.
Well, and to this point, Mike, what's interesting to me, and I feel like the players who are getting, who are gambling, getting in trouble for it, a lot of people are easy to, point the finger at the league, at the NFL, at the NCAA, and say, you're partnered with these groups, whatever the case might be, how can you be so hypocritical? But my rebuttal to that, or the idea that they bet on a game that wasn't their team, but my rebuttal to that is there's so much information. These student athletes, these professional athletes know one another. Who's to say when Calvin Ridley got his suspension, he wasn't texting somebody in another locker room saying, hey, X player is out today. You might want to look at that 7-point spread. I'm not saying that's exactly what happened, but that's in theory what could happen. So I don't really have a problem with these leagues, whether it's the NCAA, NFL, NBA, whatever, coming down with these harsh punishments, because I feel like now more than ever, with the access of information, with the ease of placing bets, it's easy to hinder the integrity of the game. And I think it's something we don't understand as non-athletes and not in the leagues, because we just see it on our phones and say, oh yeah, I'll take Indiana -3 over Purdue or whatever the case might be. It's a simple bet. It's harmless for the most part, right? But with the access of information, all of these student athletes, all these professional athletes having potentially access to that information, if they don't take a hard stance, it could get out of control really, really quickly.
Dustin, there are a couple of reasons why the accusation of hypocrisy on this is the laziest take you can possibly have. First of all, there's the fact that, look, they sell beer at games. Does that mean they advocate for drunk driving or they're okay with it? Right. No, they desperately don't want you to drive home from the stadium drunk. They try to control that to the extent that they can. They sell hot dogs. Does that mean they're in favor of clogging your arteries? No. I mean, like, whatever it might be, they are a business enterprise. My local supermarket isn't discerning whether or not I'm eating a healthy diet. It's not up to them. It's up to me. And the second part of it is that the money that they're in business to make money, and they're receiving money from these gambling or in some sort of business with some of these gambling websites and companies and that sort of thing. And so that doesn't necessarily mean they're hypocritical. That means they've realized that, was their stance 20 years ago backward, or 10 years ago backward, saying that they couldn't have? That was backward. You can criticize them all you want for that silly stuff that they were pulling for decades, where they were trying to keep it out of the country when it was actually in their best interest to have it. But they're a business now. And the rules that are put in place, especially in the professional leagues, they're collectively bargained. So the NFLPA has as much say, to an extent, as the NFL does in what is allowed and permissible for for athletes and their gambling. They are not prohibited from gambling. They are prohibited from gambling on the sport they play, and they are prohibited from gambling on what is defined as league property. Now, did a few athletes maybe sleep through the part where league property counts when you're in a hotel on company business? Apparently they did. But the league rules are not that complicated. They're very basic. They're very simple, and they don't restrict the freedom of the athletes to any appreciable degree. They should not be betting on their own sport, and they should not be betting on company time, so to speak. That's a pretty clear definition. Just as I shouldn't be in the press box at a football game or at press table at a basketball game punching up, my bets. That's not right either. And I don't do that. I wouldn't do that. I don't even have one app on my phone, so I can't do that. But that it's the same concept. I find the hypocrisy. It's just like I said. It's the laziest assertion, the laziest take a sports analyst can have.
Well, and to that point too, they know what they're getting into. It's not like they place these bets and the league's like, oh, well, guess what? We didn't have it written down, but we're going to suspend you anyway. These are things that the NFL, the NCAA go through. I was talking earlier. I played sports at a Division III college, and we went through like a 2-hour in our compliance meeting about gambling, about even filling out an NCAA bracket just for the heck of it. Like, these are things that these leagues hammer home. So you know what the rules are. Don't play dumb when you get caught. And I think, again, I agree with you. I feel like it's very simple to say, well, what's the big deal? I can place a bet no matter what. Well, when you're a professional athlete and you're getting paid millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars at least, there are some rules that come with that. Just don't violate the very simple, very easy rules that they have in place now. You'll be okay, I promise.
Think about what an athlete is gambling with especially a professional athlete is gambling with when he or she decides to subvert those rules, because you're not just betting the $1,000 you're going to bet on that particular game, taking the points or the money line or whatever. You're betting your paycheck. Is that worth it? I mean, it seems like a pretty easy decision. Nah. And if you have a question, can I place this bet? You can call the league office. You can call a member of your team, whatever. Can I do this? No. Okay. Yes, do it. Whatever. It's not that complicated, but you don't just sit down and do it and sort of try to ask forgiveness later, ask permission later. No, it's much better to ask permission than to ask for forgiveness, because in the NFL, the forgiveness means you're suspended.
Right.
Mike, what's up next for you, sir?
Well, tomorrow, the United States senior national team, men's senior national team, will be in the semifinals of the FIBA World Cup. So we'll be all over that, as well as the possibility that as of now, I mean, they both have to win, but there's that possibility that the United States could play Canada on Sunday in the final. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm saying it's a possibility. They also could play Serbia, or they could lose tomorrow and play in the third place game. So, but tomorrow, I think it sets up for a really interesting weekend with the World Cup semifinals, and so really excited about that. I've got a column online that we posted yesterday about Lionel Messi and how many people are saying because he came in and scored a lot of goals right away that he's embarrassing the league. As if he hasn't gone into every single league or competition he's ever been in and scored a lot of goals right away. I don't know. I think that was an important thing to get out there and sort of tamp down the foolishness about Lionel Messi being bad for American soccer.
That's like saying, man, the Phillies, they put that Schwarber guy in the lineup. He just keeps hitting those damn home runs. It's terrible.
He's embarrassing the pitchers of the National League. He's got to stop.
Oh, man. Mike, I can't thank you enough, man. Looking forward to it. You have a great weekend.
Jim and Dustin, always a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Much more coming up. Brought to you by Metalworks Brewing Company, part of the Wow Food Group. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
John, can you play Colorado Kool-Aid now that we're off air or not, so Justin can hear this?
No, this is still being recorded for YouTube, so it could still get caught.
Man.
Just he can look it up. It's fine. Excuse me.
Look up Dustin. Everybody's talking about drinking, or someone mentioned drinking the Colorado Kool-Aid, and I'm definitely in that. I think it was Justin. Yes, it was. There's a song by Johnny Paycheck called Colorado Kool-Aid. It's an old. It played on country stations back in the 70s, I think, but it's so funny. Oh man.
Oh, buddy.
Oh, I wish we could play it, but it's so long. It's a slow song. It's a story. He's telling the story, not singing in this. Once we was down in a place in Mexico or whatever he says. I can't remember how it goes.
Do we? I just thought about this. Do we have Kristen Area today? For some reason, I feel like he may have messaged us saying
no. No. He told us last week he's not going to be on. I didn't think about that, but you're right. Yep. You tag. Way to go, John. Tagging him. He's going to be wondering why you tagged him, even though.
Well, not even that, but I mean, just sending the email with the link. That's what I'm more thinking about.
God, can you imagine having Colorado at 8.5 plus 8.5?
What?
When that line first came out a week ago, can you imagine having Colorado at 8.5 points?
I know that probably would have been a.
I'll tell you this. I would have taken my life, everything I have, and bet on that. If I could have gotten Colorado plus 8.5 points. At home? Yes.
I think if you could get either team at 8.5.
Ooh.
I think that's going to be close. I think it's going to be close.
Well, everybody does, and Las Vegas does, so that they're usually not dumb. That's what scares me.
Well, Colorado was a 20.5 point underdog, and they won. So anything can happen.
Well, but see, that's because they're still basing it on until you get at least 3, if not 4 games into the season, it's hard to gauge these teams.
Yep.
Correct.
And this is a weird year because more teams than any time I've ever seen are in this situation of flux, including Ohio State. And how the hell I've been meaning to talk about.
All right, here we go, guys.
Pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Hank's Pizza Mac. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back on this Thursday. Appreciate you joining us here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Dustin Schutte with me, Jim Coyle here along on this September 7th. I was thinking there have been more teams than in my recent memory that are just, they'll probably end up being good, but not starting out very well. Ohio State, Florida, Clemson. We're in the era of NIL, and forget Florida, Ohio State and Clemson. What the hell? They're, as we just get into NIL, and you would think that they would kind of take a 4 or 5 steps up even further. They don't. How do they? I'm shocked that Ohio State was in a situation which I know that Justin Fields is in the NFL. I know that CJ Stroud is gone. But you know what? They always have a guy, not just in the wings. Hell, they had 3 guys that played during the national championship season a while back. So I'm shocked that they didn't have a guy just ready to go.
So I think you are hitting on the wrong issue, because this was a thing around college football in week 1 where I thought that there were going to be a lot more teams dominating than what we thought. Here's what I don't think it has anything to do with NIL. I don't think it has anything to do with the transfer portal. You know what I think it does have something to do with? The new clock rule. Teams 6 to 8 less plays. That's a big deal. Look at around. Go around and watch college football in the first half of a lot of games. Now, in some of those games, it didn't matter because the offenses were scoring like that.
That's a good point, because it puts a lot more pressure.
The clock is moving faster. Teams don't have as many plays. The clock doesn't stop. The games are shorter. Right. So I think that had a lot more to do with the low scoring, like Ohio State not winning that game by 40. I'm not saying they would have won the game by 40 points had it been, but would they have scored another touchdown or 2? Maybe. Maybe they get 8 to 10 more plays. And I would not want to see Kyle McCord throw 8 to 10 more passes, or 5 to 6 more passes.
I don't think it's the amount of plays. I think it's the fact that the clock's not stopped. So especially if you're a young quarterback, you don't have the ability of relaxing your mind. It's got to keep going. You got to keep moving. You got to keep, because that clock's rolling, and we got to get this play in. We got to get set. Got to get roll. It's a lot. They don't have the ability to relax right now.
Think about, I know that this doesn't play a huge, but think about how Indiana can milk the clock against Ohio State when they're on offense if they pick up a first, because the clock is not stopping at all. And I know that previously they could run the clock down, beforehand with the play clock if you pick up a first down. But I just feel like some of these underdogs are able to control possessions more. Like Penn State or West Virginia. I thought that Penn State would win that game by 25 points. And I think if they would have gotten 6 to 8 more plays, I think they may have. It's a new thing. Coaches are figuring this out. Players are figuring it out. It's just a new element. And I think that that's why, especially in the first half. Now, in the second half, we saw teams break away. And I think they kind of got a little bit more adjusted to how the game was being played. But in the first half, Nebraska, Minnesota was 3-0. Ohio State, Indiana was 10-3. I can't remember. I think Michigan State, did they play Kansas? I can't remember now off the top of my head. Whoever they played in that first game, it was a low-scoring first half. So I think across the board, it's just an adjustment period. You're getting less plays. Underdogs, when they are able to milk the clock a little bit more, and especially for teams that run the football quite a bit, that clock is not stopping at all. So that's the interesting rule change that I think is – there seems to be a lot more question marks right now.
Yeah, I agree. That's something I didn't think about, but I think we're thinking about it in different ways. But that is definitely something, especially like Indiana. You got 2 guys that never played, and now they don't have that ability to stop the ball like they used to, and just have the play clock, have the length of the play clock once it goes back on. So, great point. This weekend, what are you looking forward to as far as your sports docket?
Oh man, I'm looking forward to. People know that I don't exclusively cover the Big Ten anymore, but I do have still a vested interest in the Big Ten. So I think, obviously, I want to see what Indiana looks like on Friday night against Indiana State. What does the offense look like? What does Walt Bell pull out of his sleeve? I think it's going to be probably pretty basic. You don't have to get too creative to beat Indiana State and beat them by a lot. I think Illinois-Kansas is going to be an interesting matchup. I think, obviously, we've talked at length about Nebraska-Colorado, Iowa-Iowa State. How about this one, Jim? You ready for this one? Wisconsin at Washington State. That's a game that really interests me because last year –
that scares the crap out of me.
Last year, when Washington State went into Madison and won that game, Wisconsin all offseason with Tanner Mordecai, Luke Fickell, Phil Longo, the OC. Everybody talked about this is going to be an air raid offense. What did Wisconsin do? They rushed for 315 yards against Buffalo in their season opener. So are they going to throw the ball a little bit more in week 2? They did. It's kind of like the Indiana State game. Wisconsin didn't have to get really that creative to beat Buffalo. So I'm interested to see what their offense looks like against a Power 5 opponent, and one that Washington State's got a quarterback in Cam Ward who threw for 451 yards, 3 touchdowns last week in their season opening win. So that's a game that I think is kind of flying under the radar because we're talking about, again, Nebraska, Colorado, Iowa, Iowa State because of the rivalry game. That Wisconsin-Washington State game in the Big Ten is going to be really interesting. And now Jim's got his binoculars out for people on the radio. I'm not sure why. What's the reference?
Well, actually, because I just happened to look over at one of the screens I have open, and there's a picture of binoculars on something, and it reminded me that I forgot to load my binoculars in my bag for the game, for the football games. So now that baby is going in a spot that I cannot forget it.
Beautiful. So you can see all the formations and all the players.
Yes. Check it. Yeah, you got to check it out. Dad got it. There was something I was going to say to follow up on. What were you just saying?
Talking about Washington State, Wisconsin this weekend?
Yeah, I think Washington State. I would be afraid to go against them. That 6.5. That's a scary one.
It's very scary. I look at it more from the football standpoint in terms of I'm just interested to see what Wisconsin's offense looks like because, again, everybody thought we were just going to go out and throw the ball all over the field, but Ches Malusi and Braylon Allen are the two. I mean, I know it's one game, but they are the 2 running backs now that lead the Big Ten in rushing, number 1 and number 2. So that's going to be really interesting.
Last week, LSU Florida State was the number 1 watched game in America with over 9 million people.
That's crazy.
Number 2, Colorado TCU with 7 million people. Do you know what number 3 was?
Number 3. Oh boy.
I know what number 3 was.
Hold on.
Do you really?
Don't say it.
I do because we did this on a different show I was on.
Oh, okay. Is it a surprise?
Yes. And
number 3.
Yes.
Gosh, I'm trying to think of what the games.
I don't think it's that surprising, but maybe you do think it's surprising. And not because of who one of the opponents is, but because of who the other opponent is.
Peaked at 5.7 million viewers.
So I'm going to go ahead and guess.
It was the most watched game, week 1 game on this network in 25 years.
Was it Ohio State, Indiana?
It was.
Wow.
That was the most watched week 1 game on CBS Sports in 25 years.
That is impressive.
I have a way to justify it without really giving Indiana too much credit. I want to go in and it's because
I appreciate
it's week 1 and Ohio State fans are going to watch in droves no matter what network they on. 2, you're playing on a national network, CBS. You don't have to have any special package to view it on CBS. Also, Ohio State's on the road, so you have less Ohio State fans in general in person watching the game. So more people.
But we're talking, I get that, but we're talking, all right, 50,000 people.
Okay, anyway, but with the 25, that also the 25-year thing is misleading because in the past, CBS games with SEC teams don't normally start until week 3 or week 4. So that stat's slightly misleading. I'm not sure how many week 1 games are on CBS in the past. So I don't know. Again,
that would be good to look at. Also, that is a great point because I'd wondered that, but that would be great to look at because I would imagine. All right, I would think that they're still having some kind of an SEC game because that's who their contract was with. But we'd have to look at that. It's a good point. But also, though, it's still that was without DirecTV customers being able to watch the local CBS channel in Indianapolis or here.
Was it really? People couldn't watch the game who had DirecTV? Oh, man, I'd be furious.
Yes, they have a thing with CBS, so that's without a lot of viewers. That's a lot. So
and this is why again, people complain about Indiana having to play Ohio State, Iowa week 1, but this is it's smart in the terms of the Big Ten, because if this game's played in week 8 and Indiana is 3-5, 2-6, and Ohio State's 8-0, you're not going to get those numbers. You're going to get the Ohio State numbers, but you're not going to get the national. In terms of week 1, you don't know what to expect from Indiana. You don't know what to expect from Ohio State. People are still hungry for football. So you're going to get a ton of people, a ton of eyeballs on that game. So I understand. If it would have been Rutgers, probably the same thing. Maryland, probably the same thing. So I understand the Indiana gripe about we always have to play tough teams or Big Ten opponents week 1. But it's a really smart business move on the part of the Big Ten.
How good did that empty stadium look over the second half with that big CBS's drone flying in from the backside of the stadium that's half empty on one side? And
can I tell you what was a little bit disappointing watching that game? Actually, the first 2 Big Ten on CBS games was disappointing because you have that awesome theme music, the iconic SEC on CBS theme music now associated with the Big Ten. You've got an awesome drone shot coming in, and you just have empty bleachers at both Indiana and Rutgers. I was hoping to see it packed full. I know that's a little bit optimistic on my end, but I was hoping to at least see the Indiana-Ohio State game be a capacity crowd. Rutgers was not that at all. By the way, dear God, Northwestern, they are awful. Oh. They are awful. I don't know. They play UTEP, which is a really bad football team, and they play Howard, which is an FCS team. Thank God for those 2 teams, because otherwise, that's a 0-win football team.
Fun fact, UTEP is favored against Northwestern, even at Northwestern.
But didn't UTEP lose to Jacksonville State, which is either an FCS team or they just made the jump to an FBS?
I do believe they're a brand new FBS team.
Okay.
Let me take a look real quick. I'm pulling up the schedules to make sure they're still favored, but they were.
But what did you expect after what happened there? I mean, it's been.
Yeah, UTEP 1.5-point favorites, and they lost to Jacksonville State 17-14.
Dear Lord. And they beat Incarnate Word by like a touchdown, right?
By 14. Yeah, and they're an FCS.
14.
Opponent.
So I agree with you, Jim. What did you expect? Okay, but we're talking about Rutgers. That Rutgers didn't look particularly good either. And they got beat basically 24-0. They scored a garbage touchdown to make it 24-7. They are terrible. I mean, that is awful. I can't even, that could be one of the worst football teams we've ever seen. If they lose to UTEP, Lord have mercy.
This might be a year the Big Ten wins the national championship. Michigan might be.
I love how he made that jump from worst team I've ever seen to national championship.
It's kind of the season itself has just been weird. It's just been this weird start that we talked about. And now you've got Jim Harbaugh, who's not even coaching for the first 3 games.
Talk about drama.
Yes, and if the NCAA hadn't screwed around, it would have been a 4-game deal, and that would have been more serious.
No, it wouldn't have been because they play Rutgers week 4.
Oh, gee whiz!
Wow. So so 3 or 4 games, it doesn't matter. Michigan was going to start 4-0. There was, I don't know. The powertrain formation with everybody holding up the 4 fingers. Look, I get it. You're supporting your coach. You want to show unity, whatever. But dear Lord, that was a little bit touch dramatic. Do we not think? I mean,
yeah.
He's at home eating sandwiches with his offensive coordinator. Not like this is a serious situation. And not only that, this was a self-imposed suspension. I understand that the NCAA put pressure on Michigan, but self-imposed. So are they fighting against the University of Michigan? I don't know. Touch dramatic, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Also, sorry, I'm going to go on a tangent here.
Go right ahead.
Also, I think Michigan and Penn State are the two best teams in the Big Ten. I don't think Ohio State right now is in that category.
Oh, no. Of course not.
Drew Aller, 325 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Trace McSorley was a really good quarterback for them, and he won a lot of football games, won them a Big Ten championship. But I think Drew Aller is the real deal. It's hard to tell that because I know West Virginia's defense isn't great. They're not a great Power 5 opponent. But to me, if the Big Ten gets 2 teams in the playoff, it might be Michigan and Penn State. I understand that that's an overreaction after week 1, but I really thought the offense looked good out of Penn State.
And Penn State is kind of quietly coming along, although you can't say too quiet. You got 3 teams, 3 Big Ten East teams in the top 7. We got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Cabello, a part of the Wow Food Group, located right on the square in Bloomington. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market, I'm hungry. Oh, but I have my Reuben left from Chop Shop last night.
Are you sure it's from Chop Shop? You had to think about that for a second.
Well, too damn many name changes.
I got some chicken tendies in my fridge.
Chicken tendies. You know, there's a song called Chicken Tendies,
I did not know that.
and it was only named Chicken Tendies because it was voted on by fans. The title of the song.
I like chicken tendies. These are
Sung by
homemade.
a guy named Clinton Kane. Let me see how this.
Clinton Kane.
How did the name come about? I know there's a reason for it.
These are homemade baked chicken tendies.
Baked. Ooh.
I know.
Clinton Kane. Clinton
Are you
Kane.
eating a Reuben right? You're eating that right now.
No, I'm just going to show it.
Oh.
Except for I took a bite of a French fry. It's got too much spice on it.
I thought he was choking. I was like,
I thought he did. I thought he was too.
I was ready to mute this. Oh man.
All the spice hit me. I'm like, Dad, got it.
Like that St. Elmo's cocktail sauce.
That'll slap you right across the face.
Oh, it wasn't hot. It was just, but yes, it will. The creamy cocktail, their creamy horseradish sauce. Let me tell you, I use that on a lot of stuff. You know, I'm going to show these potato things. Those are.
I can't see them.
Oh, get out of here! Come on, I got a 4D camera.
Well, I know, but I'm on a very small screen because it's my phone. If I was on my laptop, I'd be fine.
Well, these are potatoes.
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 So you got French fries and different potatoes?
Well, yeah, it's a different side.
Show me potato salad.
Show me a rifle. No one's gonna understand that reference. I don't even know why I said that.
Nope, sure don't.
Is that from a Disney movie or something?
No,
a Disney movie.
A Disney movie saying "Show me a rifle."
Yeah, Bambi.
All right, here we go.
That's right. Play as many rounds as you like for just $299. That's better than a birdie. But you don't have to be a student to play at Eagle Point. Go online to set your tee time or call 812-824-4040. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Thursday. Short week. Got a football game tonight you can watch. Louisville and Murray State's on. Then Indiana takes on Indiana State. The Sycamores tomorrow night at home.
The Fighting Trees, as some like to call them that.
Well, that's Stanford.
That's true.
That's
but
true.
a sycamore's a tree as well.
What? But at least
No.
does Indiana State have a tree as a mascot?
Like an actual.
They don't
like
have a mascot.
Okay,
Right,
I don't think
okay.
they do. Yeah,
Doesn't Stanford have a tree?
they do.
Yes.
Yeah.
What the hell is with that?
What the hell is a
I
cardinal?
don't-
What the heck is a cardinal without an S on it?
Isn't it the color?
Well, could be a bishop, like
That's true.
I don't think we're talking about a religious person here.
I don't think it is either, but I'm just saying that.
Let me see if we can find the origins of the Stanford Cardinal.
There you go. I think it's just the color, kind of like who is it? Is it Dartmouth? That's the big green, or Cornell, big red, whatever. Like they're just colors.
Yeah. I'm currently reading Billy Walters' book.
Here we go. Before you move on, though, here's the brief history of Stanford's mascot. The team was metonymically referred to as the Cardinal by sports writers after a game against California in 1892. The university's athletic teams continue to be referred to as the Cardinal or Cardinals even after the adoption of the Indians name. So they were initially the Indians, but became the Cardinal.
But it doesn't say why. It doesn't say why.
Stanford has
probably
no
had
official
something-
mascot, but the Stanford tree, a member of the Stanford band, was wearing a self-designed tree costume that appeared at major Stanford sporting events. So I guess it just started off as kind of a meme before.
That's why it looks so weird.
So what you're telling me is he could have come dressed as a dinosaur, and their mascot would be a dinosaur.
Exactly. I mean, it's almost like Indiana being
No, but that's funny you said it, because next up I was going, but you're right, it is. But no, but there's at least an understanding. That's because Buffalo used to roam Indiana, and it's part of the state. Whatever.
What'd you call it?
There he is. It's Hoosier Pride. If you're on,
not that jackleg.
Wait. What did you? Hold on, Jim. What did you say it used to roam across Indiana?
Buffalo. They were not buffalo. There is no such thing as an American buffalo. They're bison.
You always harp on that point, so I had to call you out on that.
Bring back the bison. Yes, bison. I see people. There's no such thing as an American buffalo. Buffaloes are in Africa. They're a water buffalo. It's a bison. Bison. Yes, bison used to roam Indiana, and it's part of Indiana's, state seal. There's a bison on it, but yeah.
Could you imagine if they brought a bison?
Makes sense. But this stupid thing about Stanford, literally, so a guy could have been dressed as what was that purple cartoon dinosaur that used to be on TV?
Barney.
Barney. Somebody could have dressed as Barney, and that would be their mascot.
That would be amazing. The Stanford Barneys.
That would be awesome. It would be.
I want to see a uniform with purple and green now.
Purple and green. Oh,
isn't that the colors? Isn't that the Barney official colors? What is Barney's official colors, John? Can you Google that? Look that up. I feel like purple and green is pretty accurate on this, but it's been a minute.
Yeah, purple and green, and maybe a little bit of white, I think, or yellow.
Everyone cares.
Sounds like the name of a team you'd make on Create a Team in Madden back in the day, or something like that.
What are you all talking about? This show's going off the rails, man.
Jim wants to tell us about this book he's reading. We're just now learning that Jim can read.
I didn't say I could.
Okay, you have a book that you're looking through.
There are no pictures in there, so I'm having trouble getting. Oh, there's numbers. But there were a few pictures. I hadn't gotten that far yet. Oh, and I just lost my spot. Daggone it. Anyway, yeah, I'm sure you've heard about it. The Gambler, Secrets from a Life at Risk, Billy Walters.
Is that the Phil Mickelson story?
Yeah.
Boom. That's good.
Do you know where Billy is from?
I don't know where he's from.
Munfordville, Kentucky, halfway between Louisville and Bowling Green, I think. Grew up in Louisville before going on to Vegas. But this dude knew some big time people. I'm talking Benny Binion. Las Vegas, Benny Binion.
I don't know who that is.
Benny Binion was the man in Las Vegas. He started Binion's Horseshoe Casino. He started the World Series of Poker. He's something. It's a pretty good read. No singing the Barney song. Luckily, I don't know it.
Yeah, we'll refrain from that.
Absolutely. Barney was not in my repertoire.
Your daughter didn't watch Barney?
I'm trying to think where that was. That was more of what was that? The Spanish girl,
Dora the Explorer.
Dora the Explorer. That's it. Dude, John had it, but yeah, Dora the Explorer and that little monkey that she had. So that was more of a Dora time. Yeah. So there's that. This weekend, man, I'm looking forward to. So Saturday, playing on a Friday night, college games suck. It's not good. We've already said that. But now that we don't have a choice, so I don't have a choice. I didn't make the schedule, but that opens up Saturday and Sunday.
Beautiful.
How about that? I mean, so you get to watch. You do get to watch what that does allow me to do, because a game day is an 8-hour day.
Right.
8 hours. And you miss virtually every other game that's on, except for maybe you'll get home in time. Well, you can get home in time for the primetime game and then, of course, the West Coast game.
Right.
So there's that.
Yeah, so the benefit for the media, you get to watch all day Saturday. You just get to relax, eat some chips, or eat a Reuben.
Eat a Reuben? Have me? Oh, I didn't show it on. Yeah, did I? Yes, my Reuben, the leftover last night from Chop Shop. But I love these little. But this was a separate side deal. It was a. I don't even know what the hell you call them. They're potatoes in a just cut in a constant ring, taco flavor, loaded taco flavor. How about that?
Oh, like a potato tornado.
Boy, you know what? That's a hell of a name for it. That's what it should be called, and I'm going to suggest that.
Perfect. I'll take all the royalties from all the orders.
Yes, I'm sure that you will. Guess what? Bad news for Springsteen fans.
Oh,
Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band have postponed all performances currently scheduled for the month of September.
Is there a reason?
Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Mr. Springsteen is being treated for symptoms of peptic ulcer disease, and the decision of his medical advisors is that he should postpone the remainder of his September shows. Springsteen made the following comment. Over here on E Street, we're heartbroken to have to postpone these shows. First, apologies to all the fabulous Philly fans who we missed a few weeks ago. We'll be back to pick these shows up and then some. And I can't imagine. He already does a daggone 3-hour show. So if he feels inclined to put a little extra into it, holy cow. I've been fortunate to see him once. I'd love to see him again. He literally put on a 3-hour show. It was awesome.
I've heard he's put on a good show. I've obviously never seen him, and
incredible.
I don't know enough of. I mean, I know some of his hits, but I don't know enough of his music to probably where that would be entertaining for me. But I have heard he's put on a great show.
Okay, you know what? Before we get out of here, don't forget, go to ESPN, get your ISB media picks in for this week. Right now, I've got it pulled up. The matchups are Notre Dame and North Carolina State, with 97% having picked the Fighting Irish. Oh no. The Utah Utes, the 2 Utes, go to Baylor to take on the Baylor Bears. I'm going with the Utes. Oh. Colorado, Nebraska. They're listed. Now, here's a tough one. Iowa at Iowa State.
Yeah.
We just talked about all that stuff that's gone on. Iowa State going with their redshirt freshman quarterback who led them to a 30-9 victory over Northern Illinois last week.
Yeah. Do you remember how ugly that game was last year offensively? It might be similar. I think Iowa has the upper hand because I think that their defense is better. I was surprised because Iowa scored on touchdown passes on each of their first 2 possessions against the Utah State defense that was bad. But then the rest of the game, they only scored 10 points. So I don't really know what to expect. It still seems like they can't really run the football. That's going to be – I don't know. What's the line in that game?
Which game?
The Iowa State game.
Oh, good question. I don't know if they show that here.
It's just a pick who wins?
Yeah, these are straight pick'ems.
Okay. I would go Iowa on the pick'em. I'd be interested to know what the line is. I haven't seen.
I should be able to pull that up pretty quickly, though, just to get an understanding. Go backwards. Let's see. I don't need to bet. Who we looking for? Iowa State. Come on.
That's got to be a pick'em.
There we go. No. Iowa State is getting 4 points at home.
Ooh, I don't know about that. Iowa State is favored by 4. I don't like that. I would hammer.
No. Iowa is favored by 4.
I still would hammer. I don't like 4 points. I'd hammer that line Iowa State. I would hammer it either way. I think that's a field goal game.
Yeah, since Iowa didn't score a lot of touchdowns, they don't.
Well, neither did Iowa State. One of their touchdowns came on a pick 6. So they scored 23 and 24 respectively last week offensively.
Man, that's a tough one. Just in the pick'em, it's a straight up, and I'm like, that's still tough. It's just tough because I'm like, whoa, that's a rivalry game,
right? I would take Iowa in the pick'em. I would take Iowa if Iowa is getting -4. I would take Iowa State on the betting side. But again, I don't gamble, so don't take my advice.
If who's taking what? Say it again.
I know I kind of had a word salad there. Okay, so if it's straight up pick'em, I go Iowa. But if Iowa's getting 4 points, I would take Iowa State to cover.
Well, I've got my picks in for the ISB media pick for this week. Went 7-3 last week.
Damn, look at you.
Well, but there was Justin and somebody else went 8-2.
Ooh, good week. It does make it easier if it's just straight pick'em.
One would think, but it's easier than picking what the spread. Yeah, but still, it's like that Iowa State game, man. That's a toughie. Notre Dame fighting North Carolina State. You got to take Notre Dame, but as far as the spread goes, that's another one that's tricky. 91% have picked Colorado, by the way.
91? Wow.
Well, it's part of that is just the reaction, like me. Man, it's been fun as always, brother.
It's always a good time. I love that we're back talking about actual sports things. The summer's fun, but now that we're back in fall, we got a lot more to talk about. It's fun.
Looking forward to it again, brother. Hope we'll see you again next week, hopefully sooner rather than later. How's your weekend looking? What you got planned?
I'm just working all weekend, man. Just working.
I hear that. The working man's blues. I can't thank everybody enough, as always, before we get out of here. Appreciate you being on the program. Of course, Mike DeCourcy joined us. As always, a good time. Go to the ESPN deal for your college pick'ems for ISB Media. Just go to ESPN, the fantasy tab. This is on computer. It's harder to do it on the phone, I've noticed. But on a regular computer, just go to the ESPN over on the right side. There's fantasy, and then straight down underneath that, college pick'em. And you either join Indiana Sports Beat Radio if you haven't already. There were several. There's like 30 people in that first week, and looks fun. So we'll carry that forward. Tomorrow on the program, John Boy, what do we got coming?
We've got kind of a mixed bag. Some people are regulars, some are not. But as of right now, we have Bob Kravitz, and Zach Osterman. And I think Matt Taylor is going to join us tomorrow. No Jeffrey the Greek, but I'm also trying to see if Mr. Todd Golden will join us. And I think we'll also hear from our Purdue guy as well, Travis Miller.
I believe J.D. Campbell.
Well, then if that's the case, then we do have J.D. Campbell. Okay. I
believe J.D. is joining us as well too. So and Travis Miller from Purdue. I meant to talk about Purdue today, about their game, but we'll pick that up tomorrow. For you any Boilermaker fans, looking forward to it. Cannot thank you guys enough. Big thanks to John, the producer, as always. Thanks to you all for being here. Without you, we've got no reason. Until tomorrow, thanks to Dustin, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat